Let's talk a little bit about common thought distortions. In sort of popular psychology and sort of public discussions of cognitive therapy, they often talk of different styles of thinking mistakes or cognitive distortions, negative automatic thoughts. And they often group these into different categories. And so this is another way of sort of tackling the problem of how do we help clients evaluate their automatic thoughts by presenting them with a list of potential thought distortions that they might be doing. Now, we have other ways, and in this course we will spend most of the time exploring some of those other ways. So we can use the 7-column thought record as a way to help a client systematically go through their thinking. Or we can use a more conversational style and use self-discovery and Socratic dialogue as a way of helping a person. But let's just take a minute and talk about these thought distortions. I've included in your reference material a document called 15 Styles of Thought Distortion, and you can refer to that. And this is a very sort of typical list of thought distortions. Judith Beck, in her book, page 181, lists 12 different thought distortions her and her father use in looking at errors in thinking. I've seen other lists. The BC government website, Here to Help, has some documents on cognitive sort of self-help stuff for clients, and they use a list of 9 different thought distortions. On the web, I once ran into a website that had 50 styles of thought distortion. So I don't think the numbers matter so much. I think these kind of lists that are kind of the 9 to 15 usually capture most of the ways that clients get kind of trapped into looking at the world in erroneous ways. But what you can do with these is you can show them to a client and have the client read through them and see which ones they relate to. And so it's a good way to get the client just reflecting on a common error. So something like black and white thinking, kind of that all or nothing thinking. It's either all this way or it's all that way. Mind reading, this notion that people understand what you're thinking without you actually telling them. And so these lists are, I think, very practical, they're very useful, and they can get a client to think about the kinds of thought distortions that they have. The limitation of them is that it's more of an educational approach. It's less sort of self-discovery, less of the client exploring their thoughts and coming to their own conclusions. But it can be a very helpful thing when you're in situations where you don't have a lot of time. Sometimes, if you're working in a facility of some sort, an inpatient unit, or some kind of treatment center where you don't have a lot of talking time with a client. And so you can have a client read through one of these things and then have a conversation afterwards about the thought distortions and balancing ways to look at them. Another way to go with them, which is one that I've used a fair bit, as an adjunctive strategy. So having more the 7-column record method or a conversational method, and then after the client sort of grasps that concept, then introduce to them one of these lists and kind of reflect on that. Often after you've done the 7-column record, for example, after you've done it several times, you start to notice certain themes, and you can start to highlight those themes with the client. And sometimes you can kind of connect it to one of these lists and particular elements within that list. So just another tool, and hopefully that's useful to you.